Very, very little is known about it, actually. Very, very little is known about it. He made quantum leaps in his research and investigation that were almost remarkable, but then again, that's how some of the great achievements come. When he had a feeling that frequencies were a very inherent part of viruses and bacteria, he went on a crusade to visibly demonstrate, to factually demonstrate that this was the principle, and off he went and started building this microscope. In fact, interestingly enough, we do know of his past. He worked over with the Zeiss people, who in Germany are its incredible reputation, and when he came back, he felt that the Zeiss people didn't even really have it all together in regards to microscopes, and he said he's just going to build his own, which he did.
Was he ever written up at the time when he was doing these things in Who's Who in Science or whatever? Any of those kinds of publications where they compile all the people currently active in the field?
You're going to have to speak up again, Craig. You're fading on us.
Do you want me to repeat the whole thing?
No, I think
we got the story. We got it there, but you were fading.
As far as we know, we haven't found him in Who's Who or that type of directory. We have several newspaper articles on him, but no, as far as we know, in that type of directory or Who's Who, we have not found it as yet.
And was it his assistant who you just mentioned who had taken care of the microscope for all these years, or how was it rediscovered?
John Crane, yes, had actually taken care of it, had kept it under safekeeping for a while and kept everything fairly quiet and protection until the time was right again. And he preserved Rife's library as much as was possible, the books and a lot of the paperwork that Rife used. And he also preserved the microscope and a lot of the other equipment that was utilized at the time.
That's good he did that. Let me ask you one question on the treatment itself. When you're irradiating someone, or just to use a different word, bathing somebody with light of a given frequency, I would think you'd have a certain problem in that it only penetrates to a certain distance. Now, how would it actually kill off all the disease organisms within the body?
Well, they were not using light frequencies. They were using electromagnetic frequencies in a different part of the spectrum. So it had nothing to do with a topical application. It was not regular light. It was actually frequencies that were generated and went through the body at a rapid speed. This is how the electromagnetics work in the cellular structure, which has been proven all over the world. So it had nothing to do with the topical application.
So are you talking about microwave frequencies or
more like
range?
Like a radio wave would go through you also, that type of technique.
Yeah, that would be microwave.
Right.
Huh, I see. Pardon me. One question kind of stuck out in my mind, even though I find what you've outlined to be quite plausible, and I've considered these types of ideas myself. You refer to, quote, the cancer virus, and we do know that there are viruses that are associated with cancer causation, but when you say the cancer virus, isn't that a little bit misleading term there?
Well, if you're taking something out of context, what we mentioned was that during the life cycle of the viruses, they take many forms. And I had already stated previously that it took different frequencies to devitalize even the cancer virus at its different states. So,
well, that's what I mean. When you in taking that sentence in that context,
right.
When you say the cancer virus,
we're saying what we're saying is cancer largely is caused by a virus. Now, the form of the virus can be many different forms, but what he showed in his work, it was definitely a virus.
And he definitely got rid of it.
Got rid of it. So, but
got rid of the cancer.
That's really what we're saying.
And that's the bottom line.
I mean, that's not to say I understand exactly what your question is, but we're not stating that it is one specific. It is a
family of viruses.
It's a family of viruses. In fact, again, in this booklet that we have, they showed that there were 10 general families of bacteria and viruses that changed based on the environment existing within an organism. They would actually mutate.
And most everything else you've outlined is quite plausible. That particular, those two particular viruses have not much in common.
Well, that's what they saw, and they were pretty healthy people that were looking at them.
I'd really like to see.
Well, you're talking about Dr. Arthur Kendall, whose textbooks are still used for bacteriology in the classrooms. You're talking about E.C. Rose now at the Mayo Clinic. So I can't profess to be a medical expert, but those are definitely the quality of individuals who were confirming that.
So you're coming up against some pretty hefty guys there, Craig.
Yeah. You're saying that, is there information on that in this article?
In this booklet reprint, yes.
And, Craig, something that might be more helpful or simplistic is that if you change the environment in which something lives, you take, for instance, if you take the oxygen away, we can no longer live. If you consider a germ or a disease, which is a dis-ease in the body, and you change the environment in which it lives, why, in fact, couldn't you kill it? Or change it into something else?
I find the killing part quite plausible. Mm-hmm. And it's also true that the expression in physical form of genetic material is affected by the environment that something grows in. But for one species of bacteria to change into an entirely different species is something of a different order.
Well, but now you must remember that up to this time, who was able to see it? And in fact, today, who is able to see it? So even with what you're saying, your information is based on a technology and knowledge that is currently in use, and the whole idea of this program is they were using a technology which was very plausible scientifically, and they were able to get to a magnification to see the very thing we're talking about.
And you're saying that the point is that they could see them while they were alive with this microscope?
Absolutely.
Right.
Which the electron microscope can't do.
Yeah, right, I understood that, and that's an important point.
Okay, Craig, does that help you? We're going to have to run.
Yeah, I was going to just give you one last question, and this will be it. It would seem to me, you did say that every different bacteria or virus would have its own lethal frequency. If, excuse me, in the course of experimenting, wouldn't they run the risk of wiping out the friendly bacteria or doing other damage?
No, the frequencies that they ran on, and again, we can only go by the paperwork and the letters, the articles that we have. They hit upon area frequencies. They never showed any adverse effects. In fact, the only big problem they had was when they first started, they found when they used it, even for that one instant, every day, there was too many toxins from these blown apart cells in the body that they gave it treatment once every 3 days, and the body then could assimilate. But we have no idea. I don't know what was taking place then.
Okay, Craig, does that help you?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for the good questions. You're on Open Mind tonight. I'm Bill Jenkins. With me is Steve and Laverne Ross of the World Research Foundation. We're talking about the work of Royal Rife, the Rife microscope, to which they could see living organisms that have been catastrophic to millions, and found a way to get rid of them. But nobody cared. Hey, hello, Rick. Welcome aboard.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah?
It's funny, I was driving home listening to your program in my car. I got home, I opened my mail, and I have a letter from a dear friend of mine saying he just had surgery for major cancer. And that kind of a coincidence with your show.
Well, sorry that it had to happen that way.
It happens. I have a difficulty. Several of my questions have been answered by previous callers, or I think you will cover in a few minutes. I wanted to ask a couple of different ones. I have a difficulty with the conspiracy theories that you're spinning tonight. I have difficulty with them in general. One of the problems I have with the theory, or maybe it's just a misunderstanding on my part, but you seem to be acting as though you can't get funding for this kind of idea. You can't get exposure for this kind of idea. I wanted to suggest that people will fund anything from bad software to B movies. They will invest in all sorts of crummy ideas. You can get money for any kind of an idea, and it seems to me that if this idea is real, if it had any basis in fact, you would have hundreds of nuts